I am confident that everyone in this room shares the same top 5 values in life. Your faith, your family, yourself, and your time and money. I am going to use these values throughout my presentation to persuade you to acknowledge and follow posted speed limits while driving. When I was a teenager, I got a speeding ticket for doing 55 and a 25. I'm not proud of that, but the ticket actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Where I once might have thought that I was invincible, my court-appointed punishment taught me otherwise. The cost of the ticket was probably incentive enough for me to follow the law, but it was the traffic school that really drove it home for me. The facts and stories that were presented to me that day made me realize how naive I was, and it persuaded me to pay attention and follow posted speed limits. I hope I'm able to do the same for you today. Let's start with money. How speeding affects the cost of driving. I use my ticket as an example. The fine for the ticket was $350. The fine for the traffic school was $35, $385. So to compare that, the tuition for public speaking class is $296 before fees, and the book used was $85.75, $381.75. Since I was in high school at the time, my mom was paying my insurance, so I didn't notice any cost there. However, I did notice it when my husband got a ticket in 2008. Our GEICO bill showed our 6-month premium went from $941 to $1,181. A speeding ticket takes 3 years to come off of your record. That could be a total cost of $1,441 over 3 years. According to BestBuy.com, you could buy a Samsung 46-inch TV, a Samsung Blu-ray disc player, and up to 7 Blu-ray discs for that same amount of money. But wait, there's more. Observing the speed limit can increase your fuel economy. A team from VID00007.MP4 did several tests for fuel economy. The first test was to compare aggressive driving versus moderate driving. The test reported an average fuel savings of 31%. Their recommendation? Stop driving like a maniac. They also did a test to see if lower speeds could save on gasoline. They drove a 50-mile stretch at 65 miles an hour and then again at 75 miles per hour. The research indicated a potential fuel savings of 14%. Their recommendation? Drive the speed limit. An article at fueleconomy.gov reported similar findings. They said, you can assume that for each 5 miles per hour you drive over 60 is like paying an additional 24 cents per gallon for gas. Edmunds.com ran a third test and found that using cruise control could also save up to 14% of your gasoline. Their recommendation, if you've got it, use it. I would recommend using cruise control as well. It will help you keep the speed limit in case you're forgetting. I know I have looked down at the speedometer and noticed I was going faster than I thought I was. But only use it in appropriate conditions. Don't use it in bad weather. Now let's look at time. When we are running late, we tend to try to speed to get to our destinations quicker. It's not going to work. ODOT did a study on this. A 10-mile trip in a 45-mile-per-hour zone, done at 55 miles an hour, the results showed that the driver could only save a maximum of 3.5 minutes. In my Saturday traffic school, the presenter was giving us facts on how going faster doesn't really save you any time. He told us, next time you're driving, go the speed limit. Pay attention to the cars around you that are going faster and see how far ahead of you they actually get. One time I was driving on McLaughlin Boulevard, and there's a couple of miles where it goes without any traffic signals, and I was passed up by a Toyota pickup. I lost sight of him as he went around the bend, and I forgot all about him until I caught up with him at the red light. He wasted gasoline in order to not save time and not gain any distance. Let's not forget that if you get caught speeding and get pulled over, it's going to take some extra time. My guess is at least 15 minutes. Next, we are going to consider our family and ourselves while driving. Oregon traffic law enforcement agent Steve Vitolo was quoted saying, "It isn't just speeding drivers who lose their lives. It's innocent drivers and passengers. It's family members and friends. Going the speed limit can be just as dangerous going below the speed limit can be just as dangerous as going over, but it's usually the going over that is the biggest issue. An article in Oregonian cited that speeders killed more Oregonians than drunk drivers last year. And it is also a law of physics that it is impossible to survive a collision when going higher speeds. My physics teacher in high school, Mr. Daw, did 2 equations for us one day, finding the amount of force when a car is going a particular speed and then colliding with something unforgiving, such as a tree. The 2 equations calculated units of force going at 55 miles an hour and then at 65 miles per hour. His calculations found the amount of force doubled by just adding 10 miles per hour. He told our class that day that the human body cannot handle that amount of force. And Steve Vitolo described that same thing to the Oregonian, saying your heart isn't built to go from 60 to 0 in a millisecond. And I could elaborate on that, but it gets pretty gross. Now, I have preached my reasons why not to speed around town to my husband and my brother, and their usual response to me is I am a good driver. I'm not going to lose control of the car. But there are things you just cannot control. For instance, what if you have a tire blowout, or what if an animal darts onto the road? And you are only as good as the reaction time of your vehicle and yourself. An article from visualexpert.com suggests that a total stopping distance is 279.5 feet, based on a person driving a car at 55 miles per hour. If they're during the day on a dry road and they see a pedestrian, they want to hit the brakes. Human reaction time is 1.5 seconds, which takes 120.9 feet, almost half of the time it takes to stop. Then you have to push the brake down, which takes 0.3 seconds, another 24.2 feet. And at that speed, the car will take at least 134.4 feet to stop once the brakes are working. This same amount of feet, 27.9 feet, is the same as 3/4 the length of a football field. This is the reality that is considered when speed limits are posted. For example, it's why there's 20-mile-per-hour speed limits in a school zone. As I conclude, I want to go back to our top 5 values. Every time we get in our cars, we have faith that we will make it safely from point A to point B. We still have to do our part in following the posted speed limits to strengthen our chances of that. We value the lives of our family, children, spouses, and ourselves. When you follow the speed limit, you are increasing everyone's safety. There are many ways to save time and money, but speeding isn't one of them. I encourage you all to remember these values when you drive home today and make the decision to acknowledge and follow posted speed limits.